Hello everybody, good day to you. My name is Dante, and I am here today in beautiful sunny San Francisco. This is a very rare summer day in San Francisco. I'm actually warm sitting outside here in the sun, whereas some days it's like winter, even in June or July. Very blessed and so happy to be here in this city that was one of the first places that I came when I started traveling back 7 years ago, because the video that I am making today is about traveling. So I have been traveling as a lifestyle since December of 2012 without staying in a place other than where I called home in Guatemala for more than 2 or 3 months. I spent half the year in Guatemala every year for the past 5 years, except for 1 year. I went to India instead. And beyond that, I've been taking my services, cacao, healing, and my magical self to many different places. I believe I've been to about 15 countries, and it's been an incredible blast. Traveling really is the greatest teacher, because there's so much you learn from being a part of a different cultural reality, and by being also a part of a different geographical reality, that in a place where people doesn't have much movement, and even in a place like San Francisco where there's many international people coming in and out, there's this set of kind of cultural conditions that are how people operate in this space and in this mindset here. Yet it varies so completely from place to place. And in some countries, like for example in Belgium, like you go 10 miles away and it's an entire different approach to life, an entire different way of processing, different accent, a different idea of what is. And it's so beautiful to be able to experience this diversity. You learn that there are options. You learn that there are so many ways of approaching life, and you develop a greater compassion for people out there and realize that we know so little. I've been to maybe 15 countries. I didn't count before I started recording this, and I have seen such a small fraction of the world, and I'm really excited to see so much more of it. I'm in no rush, because right now my traveling is more about my spiritual service, to develop my skills and my understanding deeper, and places that are ready and receptive to the work that I can do and able to support me in doing that work. So people often ask me how I actually do this. How do you travel? How do you make the money for it? How do you get to the places you need to go? How do you deal with the stress of all of these traveling challenges? And I want to put it in 3 simple steps. There's so many nuances, but I think a lot of the anxiety will go away if you, when you want to travel, commit to these steps. And I am really happy to open up my guidance sessions for people who want to begin traveling, because over the years I've had a lot of people approach me and be like, hey, how do you do this? I want to be able to do what you're doing. And I think a lot more people ought to be doing this. I'm reaching out on YouTube to audiences of maybe people I haven't met in person, or types of groups of people that I'm not so connected to as I move about the world. Though the truth is there are so many people like me that are living nomadic lifestyles. Some do it in total luxury, some do it like hippies, and this hippie is like such a gradient term. So if there's kinds of hippies that are like on the streets and like living in dirty conditions and whatnot, and there's hippies that are like going to yoga retreats and trimming herbs and doing all sorts of great stuff all the time, and there's so many people like that, and it's so much fun. It's so much fun. And I want everyone to be able to have as much fun as I have had and I know is possible, because I still know that there is a lot more fun to be had than I've had. And that's great. I love this life and this reality. Oh, okay. So there's 3 steps. The first one is so simple. And I learned this in San Francisco. It's buy the ticket, take the ride. The second is know your value and ask for support. The third is follow your heart no matter what. Follow it. So, buy the ticket, take the ride. Just a little anecdote of when I first started traveling. I had a very psychedelic spiritual awakening my first year of college in Philadelphia with really good friends of mine, and I had really suffered my kind of late teenage life by being put amidst tremendous conflict within my family. I was asked to be a mediator and to take sides, and people in my family nearly died. There were battles that I was placed in the center of, and it tore me open, and I didn't believe I could trust anyone in the world. And taking these medicines really opened my horizons and allowed me to believe that I could do more with my life. So I signed an agreement with my friend to go traveling to the West Coast and go to what was called Rainbow Gathering, which was hippies doing whatever they want in the woods. Thousands and thousands of them. So I, that winter, bought a ticket for the summer with my friend, and we hitchhiked through Arizona. We came over to California. We almost went back, and then we we were on the way back, and then we decided to go to the Rainbow Gathering anyway, and we took a very long detour, which was all good. And one detail of this Rainbow Gathering that was so phenomenal was I experienced some trance states induced by will for the first time in this Kundalini trance dance, and I remember opening my eyes and looking around the sun. There was a perfect rainbow circle around the sun, and I'd never seen anything like that before. It's common to see this around the moon, but around the sun I was like, wow, okay, this is something special. We are doing something really good here, and I think this is what you call freedom. And again, freedom was that word that came through after this ceremony of just holding hands with hundreds of people and chanting the syllable Om for what felt like hours. And I was in so much bliss after this that I knew that whatever that life was that people were getting towards was what I wanted to do. On that same trip, I met somebody here in San Francisco that said, buy the ticket, take the ride. And it really is that simple. If you just follow the path, you will be met by someone who will support you. And everyone's at many different degrees of comfort of how they wish to support their travels. So I'll talk about this with the next step, which is know your worth and ask for support. So there are a lot of people that can work on their computer, doing consulting, doing counseling, doing healing work, doing business work, doing anything, doing online poker. I know travelers who travel the world playing online poker. Look on the internet and find a way that you can make money while being anywhere you want. And there are so many ways. You have to believe it's possible, and you have to go for it. That's if you want a more luxurious experience, and I'm kind of assuming that the YouTube crowd that I'm attracting is on that wavelength. Though the truth about my story and my journey is that I just completely winged it, you know? And I made it through the other side, and I'm happier for it. And now I'm able to support myself mostly through sessions online, ceremonies, and these are really powerful services. Well, the ceremonies are done in person, but the channeling sessions, the counseling and guidance sessions I offer online are very powerful for people, and I feel so great about offering it, and that it can support me in moving forward is also wonderful. I'm also involved in different platforms that are approaching economics and gifting together. It's called Sacred Economics. That's helping me supplement that. And I haven't done this in a while. It's something that I did in early stages of my traveling, but seasonal work, picking fruit. It's a really easy way to make a quick buck to keep yourself moving forward. And there's tons of people who are just seasonal migrant workers and go from place to place and have that experience of diversity and opportunity just through picking fruit or working on farms. It's beautiful. Woofing, there's so many options for traveling. And a bit about my journey was really when in 2012, having had my first experience in the Rainbow Gathering and traveling here to San Francisco and some other places, I wanted more. I went to another Rainbow Gathering, and I knew that there was this international Rainbow Gathering at the point of shift in the Mayan calendar, the old Mayan calendar, in 2012, December 21st. So many people were talking about it. People who know about it still talk about it, because it was a powerful time where we really entered this entire new epoch of human history that is operating under different rules. Things manifest quicker, the light has won, the earth has ascended, and now we are integrating much higher frequencies. That was the critical turning point, and Mayan shaman from everywhere came to gather to make this possible, and people from all around the world came to gather to really pray and set this ceremonial space. It changed my life, and I will someday make an entire video just about this experience. When I first decided to go on that, I spent all of the money I had on the ticket and on a Reiki master training that I completed before that. I didn't think about what was going to happen or worry too much. I did feel fear, especially when people started asking me, how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? How are you going to do it? I learned distance Reiki. So the power of prayer is so phenomenal. If you focus your intention on something and let energy flow to it from your heart, from source, it will come. And I had experienced crazy miracles when I was learning Reiki that were like, hey, like, you can do anything. Your intention and your magic can create anything. So I just sent distance Reiki to the fact that I was going on this travel. I prayed and held my hands and did all of the protocols that were involved in Reiki, like I'm sending Reiki to my traveling experience. And what happened was, without having to advertise or do much work for it, I got clients, I got gifts from old friends and family who knew what I was doing and wanted to support me on it. I managed to go from like zero in my bank account and some food stamps to almost $1,000. I also sold a lot of old things, and it worked out perfectly for me to go. And $800 and $900 is not a lot of money to go to an entire new country. I was a little bit freaked out, but again, that trust carried me through. So yeah, trust and surrender and asking for that support. I did even make a crowdfunding campaign at that time that was not the way that it actually worked for me then, but it planted a seed for me to realize that I was valuable and my presence was valuable. What I offered to people simply through being me was valuable, and what I was gaining through my travels was culminating into how I would share my gifts, how I would open to channel, and much more. And I knew it was so aligned that I, at other points, did simply ask for crowdfunding campaigns to continue my travels. And it gave me, in total over the years, maybe like $1,000 that supplemented me in times when I was really struggling. And part of what I am learning through Sacred Economics is that is the way that things are really going to change on this planet, is by people realizing that, hey, I have value. It's not in what I do or what I can do or what I'm capable of. It's in me being this presence, this energy, this love. And if you can really tap into that and share your love freely, share yourself freely, and be open and authentic with people, and bring a very positive, nurturing energy into your interactions, you're going to meet amazing people when you travel. People that just take you in, people that pick you up and go out of their way to make it easier for you. I've gotten picked up hitchhiking in Guatemala, and Guatemalan people gave me, a white tourist boy, money. Whereas it was mind-boggling to me, like, wait, like, usually we are paying the rickshaws that come by money to take us to the next place, and now you are picking us up as hitchhikers and giving us money? How does that work? It works when you're really open, you're really in flow, you're really in total trust. So, flash forward after that first experience in 2012, you know, when you start traveling vagabond style, it can get pretty rough. I got very sick in Mexico and in Guatemala, and I think in my stay it was like on a week healthy, off a week very sick. And I just kind of had to surrender to that and knew that my body could take it, and knew that I was where I was meant to be, because when I was healthy and in that community in Guatemala, I was really so happy and so thriving. I was taken in by a shaman teacher who really supported me in profound ways, and I learned so much. When I decided to leave Guatemala, I was traveling with a lover at the time, and we ended up splitting ways in Mexico, and I had to figure a lot out. Yet the very next day, I met a friend from Guatemala who was like, you're in this situation, you need help, no problem. I'm gonna buy you a ticket to the US with me. And we went together, and the things that happened were just incredible. Like, I was never left alone for 1 second. I was always supported. I even was at one point in Santa Cruz, and because we were nearly entirely broke and even running out of the food stamps that I got, I started going to homeless shelters to eat. And in Santa Cruz, where all of these organic stores are just dumping out their beautiful organic recycling, I got some good food. I got used to it. I actually got to this point where I was like still entirely, totally blissed out for my life, because I experienced a freedom, the ability to just be and exist without having to do all of these obligations that other people around me were focused on, that I found to be so stressful. I felt blissed out. And because I was in this high frequency, me and my lover, who reunited in California, we found a lot of money on the ground without an ID, without any way to track it. And it was clearly something to do with something illegal. And we knew it was not really the right thing to do to return it to the cops. It was a gift from the universe. So on the way to the homeless shelter, we find this huge amount of money. That's how much the universe loves you. If you really just say, like, I'm here, universe, I'm here to be the light of the divine in this crazy, chaotic, whatever is happening, the universe is going to bless you up. But you have to raise your frequency to that place first. How do you raise your frequency to that place? By surrendering entirely to the stress, to the situation itself, to whatever and what have you. I'm still really stressed out by traveling. I don't like going to the airport. I don't like the airport. I definitely don't like the airport. I love the airplane. The airplane is so much fun. But getting on it and like going through all those lines and stuff, and all of those little details of the buses and the rides and the this and the that, it drives me crazy still. But I've come to know and understand that it just works, it just flows. And even though it triggers this anxiety in me, it's not nearly as overwhelming as it once was, but sometimes it still is. And I've learned to breathe through it, to allow my feelings, and to just stay positively focused and share those smiles in those moments, because that makes it so much better. When you can just even like if it is an inauthentic smile and you're just like grinning for the sake of trying to share a nice energy with those around you, other people are going to send that back to you, and it's going to uplift you. Yeah, the universe supports you in traveling. And this whole rambling started from saying, own your value and ask for support. The kindness of strangers is really how many travelers who start off the way that I traveled especially make it, and even travelers of other natures. Like, we are in this world to support each other. This is an interdependent universe, and this concept of independence is something that is actually very distorted in our lives. We try so hard to be these independent beings who need to ask for help as little as possible. And this actually feeds a feeling of separation, feeds a sense of ego, feeds a sense of I am different from this and that. And difference and distinction is great, but the separateness and the independence is actually a big hindrance. And Teal Swan has put out some amazing videos about this concept of interdependence. I highly recommend you look at them. The first one that comes to mind is called How Did It Get to This? And that video will illustrate to you in a very beautiful and powerful way why, in order to awaken the planet, we need to consciously choose to depend on each other more. I travel because I have chosen to depend on other people more. I depend on friends for places to stay in cities far away. I crash on couches everywhere in Europe and on the West Coast and through the East Coast. Wherever I go, if I don't have friends there, I ask my friends if they know people there. Or I do couch surfing. There's so many ways. And back up, there's always a hostel if all else fails. But to really depend on people and to know that the gifts that you share are totally worth what they share with you makes it all worth the while. And yes, I've had crazy hosts who have been really awkward, and you learn through trial and error. You've kind of got to go through it. I've had people that I thought were great friends of mine who ended up not liking my stay with them because it didn't meet the expectations that they had of me. So it's really good to, from the start, go where you're wanted. Go to places that realize who you are and want what you have to offer, and have clear agreements about what you're going to offer them while you're there to avoid situations like that. But choose to depend on people more. Know that your presence is something valuable and you have something to share. If you don't know what you have to share, think really deeply and maybe ask some of the people that love you the most, what is it that's very special about me? What about our connection do you get? And what helps you when we have conversations? Why do you like spending time with me? And having those kinds of conversations can be really validating for understanding why you are valuable. So the last step that I came up with to share is follow your heart regardless of all else. I guess the story to share about this would be a bit about my trip to India. Because when I decided to go to India, I went because I was in love with the same person that I was following or traveling with, following pretty much, up through Mexico and into California years ago. And took the little crystal pendulum, and he asked the crystal pendulum if it was aligned for us to go to India. At this time, I'd been traveling in Europe, and I had like 100 euros or 200 euros, and he had a couple thousand, or 1,000. And with that money, he bought us tickets to go, because he asked the crystal pendulum, and the crystal pendulum said yes, and he handed it to me, and it still said yes. And my heart was like pounding out of my chest, and it was like, wow, this is really exciting. We're going to India. We're going to do it. We did it, and on the very first day, all of my things were stolen. We almost didn't get our visas before that. We went through so much just getting there. Then everything was stolen. We were harassed by people. I was without all of my beloved possessions. I lost them from the start. I got really sick from the start. Our nervous systems were constantly shaking, and we were kind of like fighting sometimes, you know, amidst all that stress. Little things made it really, really hard. I was in India for 5 months. Halfway through the trip, I realized that my sickness was actually a very chronic condition of liver flukes that took months to heal. And it was one of the hardest experiences ever. Though I have come to not regret that or anything I've chosen to do, because I was fully listening to this passion and excitement in my heart. And this passion and excitement, when you act on it, will take you through hardships sometimes. But in those hardships are really where we learn a lot of the greatest lessons. Always, always follow your heart's guidance. And know that your heart's guidance is not bringing you to the, like, most easy, soft, gentle thing every time. This is a universe that works through contrast, and by having many varying experiences of ease, resistance, restriction, challenge, we learn how to soften ourselves and love ourselves in spite of those challenges, and we really develop the inner strength to withstand some of the bigger challenges. And I put myself through some things that were really hard in order to get to a point where I don't really want to do the hard things so much anymore. But that was part of my heart's growth. That was part of my soul expansion, and I don't regret it at all. And I would hope that not so many people are really feeling passionate about putting themselves through the greatest challenges. Though I have to say that by listening to those impulses of my heart, by making the decision to go out of my way to meet someone, or go to India, or go on an entire new trip for the possibility of a new connection or a new development in my path, a new understanding, a new course. By going out of my way and facing the challenge in order to learn something or meet someone or be somewhere new, I have always learned so much. And a lot of the hardest challenges have been the greatest lessons. And looking back at some of the disasters, I am just like, I'm laughing about it. It's so funny. And truly, some of these challenges get more complex and more emotional, but the physical survival fear of it becomes less and less every time these things happen. And I've just learned how to keep my wits about me in spite of some of these great struggles and in the midst of anything that happens. I'm grateful for the challenges as much as I'm grateful for the ease. There's so many people on this planet who did not have fixed and stable homes the way that we do now. So many indigenous people have been nomadic people, and tribes used to travel great distances to meet each other and to have interactions and negotiations. We are traveling species. We are people and souls that want to have diverse levels of experience. And by exposing ourselves to all of the difference out there, we learn and we grow so much, absolutely every single time. So I really want to see this world diversify, and I believe that if people step more outside of their comfort zones, if like the conservative, uptight people in this country, the United States, would go to some of these more impoverished countries where people are suffering and really saw what people go through and really saw the lives that people had and the joy that they had in spite of it, things would be a lot different here. It's always interesting when I travel to places and I meet someone who has never left that place, whether it's California or whether it is Sweden. If they have never left that place, there's something so ignorant about their energy. And some of them are totally innocent in their, well, everyone, we're all totally innocent in whatever ignorance we have. I am learning still all the time that I am totally ignorant of some things, there are some things that I say so naively and innocently that are like pushing this massive trigger button for somebody else. I'm like, oops, girl, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. But and we're all learning. We're all totally innocent. Yet these people who never leave their own little box have so much to learn from people who travel and from traveling itself. And I believe if there are more mystical beings out there trotting the world, and especially if you're trotting the world and you're putting little crystals in places and putting the crystals in the right places and taking the artifacts in the water and cycling it around, it's an alchemy that's unspeakable. And I just have to say one more thing of like how, I went to a random as fuck restaurant in the middle of, Varanasi, India. I just had this bong lassi, right? This cannabis heavy traditional drink that is sacred in this part of India and in other places in India. I was so stoned out of my mind watching them cremate bodies next to the Ganga. And I went into a restaurant with my lover, and across from us, 10 minutes as we were eating, sat people I knew from Guatemala. We didn't know we were in India at the same time, but we magnetized each other in the very right place at the very right time. And this stuff happens all the time. Walking through Nepal, we meet people we met in Guatemala. Everywhere we go, there's someone who knows someone else. It's such a small interconnected world, and you're always going to meet your tribe when you follow your heart and when you listen to your heart. There's a lot of people who are maybe not meant to travel in the style that I travel, and there's a lot of people that I see out there who need this kind of diverse experience and are holding themselves back out of fear. And with this video and with what I do and sharing my journey, I hope to inspire everyone to think outside the box and to take the courage to do the things that the rational mind and the conditioning say are totally impossible. You can do anything you want. You can do absolutely anything you want. You can do anything you want. You know what? You can do anything you want. You can do anything you want. Because there are no limitations, there are only beliefs. And if you just buy the ticket, take the ride, know your value and ask for support, and follow your heart regardless of all else, you will have the most magical journey ever. You will meet the most wonderful people ever. You just gotta soften your heart and let it open when it opens. And share the light that you are, and it will be reflected to you in incredible ways. So I hope this has inspired you and you've enjoyed it. Check out my website, blissbeings.com, for channeling sessions, for guidance sessions, for more videos and more magic. You can find me around the world, and as a traveler and a professional couch surfer, if you want to invite me to your area, I'd be happy to do cacao ceremonies, channeling, and have some magical fun times with you. Have the most bright and blessed and joyful day ever from the wondrous, sunny San Francisco. Ciao!